Tonight, each speaker addressing the chairperson should state his or her name and address for the record. Next, participation in voting is restricted to district residents. The voting procedure tonight will be by a show of hands. Special board meeting following the annual meeting is to adopt the 2018-19 tax levy. At this point, I entertain the election of the chairperson. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Karen Sorensen.
Would you state your name and where you're from? Okay, so I heard you were Sue Mooney from the town of Spooner, so I'm not going to have you come to the microphone. But thank you for that nomination. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And are there any other nominations? Perhaps there should be a second. Is there a second? Who is that? Okay, Susan Vold, Town of Boshaw. If you speak another time, we would like you to come to the microphone, but thank you for that second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate with a show of hands. We can all vote, correct. All right. Paul, would you count that side of the room? And Deb, would you count that side of the room?
It's looking pretty good.
Well, how many do you have?
8.
8? How many? 2? Did you count these people up here? 4?
Maybe 4.
Okay, 12. All right, 12 people have voted, and so I am the chairperson. Thank you. I'm asking for the approval of the minutes from the annual meeting held on October 23rd, 2017. Would somebody up here like to make a motion to
I'll make
approve?
that motion.
Second.
All right, so that would be Paul Johnson from the city of Spooner and Nathaniel Melton from the town of
Beaverbrook.
Beaverbrook. Thank you. We will try to follow the rules, gentlemen. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those that approve the minutes, raise your hand. Deb, count that side.
8.
I had 6 this time.
14 people approve the minutes. Minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the budget hearing on October 23rd, 2017.
I'll make the motion.
Paul Johnson has made that motion.
Second.
And Nathaniel Melton.
Beaverbrook.
Thank you, Nathaniel Melton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. No, I'm sorry. Raise your hand.
8 again.
6 again.
8 and 6, 14. By the way, I'm sorry. Were there anybody that didn't approve those minutes? Thank you. There were none. The treasurer's report. Shannon.
Yes. Treasurer's report is a report that should and needs to be reviewed at the annual meeting each year. And so what you'll see in front of you is just a summary of the revenues and expenditures, all funds, ending June 30th, 2018. And then the cash and investment balances in each of the funds for the ending of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2018. It goes over the receivables and payables as of June 30th, 2018, and then it also outlines what we have left for our debt service payments and the interest rate with the final payment due October 1st, 2027.
All right, are there any questions? We need to approve that, that report. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Paul Johnson has made that motion, and Kevin King from where?
Long Lake.
Thank you. Kevin King from the township of Long Lake. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those who approve this report, raise their hand.
8.
14 people approve that. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and propose the 2018-19 budget.
Okay. We have, can you guys see that? Or do we need to hit the lights? Everybody's good? Okay. So we have a very brief overview of the information that's presented in the packet tonight. If you have any questions during the presentation, please stop me and ask. Otherwise, if it's something that I can't answer right now, I can definitely meet with you later and we can go over it. The overview that we're looking at is the total levy for 18-19, approximately 15.5 million. In the general fund, 12.1, a little higher than 1 million. The referendum approved debt at 3.2 million, and then our community service fund, Fund 80 at 158,000. The revenues, anticipated budgeted revenues for Fund 10 in 2018-19 are about 15.5 million, and the expenditures are about 15.6 million. So as you can see, we're looking at a deficit of right around 100,000. Now, this was something that we have been discussing as a board and as administration. We're funding the CLC program at the elementary school this year, and that's part of this deficit. We'll continue to monitor this very closely throughout the year, looking at it mid-year and then probably again in early April to see if we've gained any traction on it or if we're still on target. And we typically talk about Fund 10, which is the fund that we have most of the operating expenses and revenues coming out of. But we do have other funds that are involved in the budget. So if you look at the very bottom, you'll see the 2018-19 all funds revenue is right around 22 million. And the all funds revenue or all funds expenses is also right around 22 million. Any questions? Something that we talk about a lot, and we talked about a lot at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of last year, was fund balance. And a school district's fund balance is not cash balance. It's something that represents the difference between the assets and the liabilities of the district. And a lot of people do confuse it as cash. It's not cash in the bank. It's something that we use for borrowing purposes. If we were to go out and bond for a referendum, they'll look at our fund balance. It consists of cash equivalents, the investments, the non-cash components, grants, and taxes receivable. A question that Dave and I get a lot is, how large should your fund balance be? There's no one fit for any district. Our current policy has changed 3 times since I've been here. Right now, it states that just the board and the administration will work together to determine the proper fund balance for the district. And at the end of this year, we were able to put a little bit into fund balance, so now we're sitting at right around $5 million, which is approximately 23% of our total expenses. Questions on fund balance? No? Enrollment data. This is something that we watch very closely because enrollment data is what drives a lot of our numbers. You can see that this is a slide that we have shown year after year since I've been here. And there is a slight uptick this year, which is great. That's what we want to see. Not as high as the 13 and 14 school years, but we're going in the right direction now. This is another number that we are monitoring closely, and this is our open enrollment trend. We're very excited this year that we are closing this gap. We went from 196 to 187 out, and from 42 to 44 in. This is quite an expense for the district. This nets out to be about $1.3 million worth of expenses for us that we pay to other districts for these students. This is a very broad overview of the budget information, a comparison from 17-18 to 18-19. These are the numbers that help drive that revenue limit that we are looking at tonight, our tax levy. We had a change in enrollment for summer school FTEs. We increased by 1. Talking about the total enrollment, we increased by 3. And anytime that you see your FTEs, your membership starting to increase, you're going to start losing your declining enrollment exemption. And what that is a stopgap that the state puts in for us. So if we have declining enrollment, we never go lower than we were the year before. But as your enrollment starts to creep up, that amount starts to go down. So you'll see that we have lost 116,000 in declining enrollment exemption this year. We've also seen our general aid go down. This is not a surprise. This has been the trend for us for many, many years. We budget on a 10% decrease. So you can see we've hit that mark at 6.68%. The allowable revenue limit this year went down $200,000. So what that means is the taxpayers are getting levied about $200,000 less this year. And then also you can see that carries down to the proposed levy going down again right around $200,000. Something exciting to see for Dave and I is the mill rate. We saw the mill rate decrease by 20 cents this year, which is actually very good. We went from 9.75 in 17-18 to 9.55 in 18-19. Some changes that we'll see outside of the revenue limit, something that's not, the taxpayers are not funding, is the per pupil aid that we receive from the state of Wisconsin. In 17-18, we received $450, and in 18-19, we're set to receive $654 per student. And I apologize, I can see that the one column still says 17-18. That should say 18-19. So we increased our per pupil aid by $204 for 18-19. Any questions on these numbers? This is just a description of the levy for the last, or a layout of the levy for the last 3 years, just showing you, if we've increased or decreased. Then you can see from 16-17 to 17-18, we increased about 2%. And then from 17-18 to 18-19, it decreased about 1.25%. Again, this is a slide that we typically show year after year. It's a good description to show you how the revenues look coming in. And for us, our tax levy is very high at 67%. And that's because we're a property-rich district and our enrollment is pretty low. So as you see the enrollment go up, that tax levy would get smaller. And then we also receive revenues from federal revenues. That's our title monies, some of the other grants that we have, our state categorical aid. We have our common school funds for the library. We have transportation aid that's lumped in there. Those are all, state categorical is at 9%, federal aid is at 6%. That fluctuates a little bit from year after year. And, really those are the big amounts of money that we receive in. We have a lot of diversity there. Likewise, on the expenses, this is pretty typical of a district. I would say that you're always going to see your salary and your benefits as your largest expense. For us, you do have your contracted services. Ours are going to be a little bit higher maybe compared to a district down the road because we contract out our bus services, and that's where that money falls into the contracted services. Now, if we had those buses as our own and those were our employees, you would see the salary and benefits portion higher, and then the contracted services obviously a little bit lower. Next year, we should see that debt retirement go from 14% to probably half that amount because we know that we're slotted to take a huge dip in that retirement amount for 19-20. Any questions? Again, this is a slide that says a lot, and we talk about it year after year. This was the mill rate per pupil revenue for 17-18. We're on a year lag for information. You can see that in 17-18, Spooner was 43 out of 43 schools in the CISA for per pupil revenue at $9,200. That's it.
Anybody have any questions at all? All right, thank you, Shannon. So I would entertain a motion to approve the 2018-19 proposed budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2018-19 budget.
I'll second.
Motion made by Kevin and Deb. What township are you in?
Rusk.
And that would be Deb Olson.
Sorry. Deb
Thank you,
Olson,
from the town of Rusk. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion, questions? Hearing none? Show of hands to approve this. Paul, how many?
6.
Eight.
Deb? Thank you. Approved with a vote of 14. New business. Resolution A, to adopt the 2018-19 tax levy, Wisconsin statute 120.10, parent 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
I'll make that motion.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
Let me read that. So operation is 12,124,000. I need a little help here with the right number. Are you on page 3?
Looks like maybe we have an extra 6.
Yes, $726. So $12,124,726 for operational revenue.
Thank you.
Debt service is $3,191,175, and the community service is $158,000, for a total proposed levy of $15,473,901.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, raise a hand to show your vote in favor.
8.
8 from Deb's side. Paul, 6.
6, yes.
Thank you very much. 14 positive votes. Thank you. Resolution B, to establish salaries for school board members, Wisconsin statute 120.10, parent 3. The current monthly salary for the board president, board vice president, board clerk, board treasurer, and board members is $125 monthly. Would anyone from the seats out there like to propose a motion? Sue Mooney would like to would do a motion. I will repeat what she says. Sue? So you would like to establish it at 125? Is there a second? Sue Vold from the township of Boshaw seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by a show of hands. All those that approve? Paul, how many?
6.
Deb?
8.
14. Motion carries. And Resolution C, to authorize the reimbursement of board members for actual and necessary expenses incurred when traveling in performance of duties. Wisconsin statute 120.10, parent 4. The current amount is $51.75 a day plus actual expenses out of district. I'll entertain a motion. Sue Vold made that motion. Sue Mooney seconded that motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all by show of hands, those that would like to approve this resolution C.
Five.
5.
8.
13 people approved. Anyone opposed? No one opposed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item D, disposal of surplus property land, Wisconsin statute 120.10, parent 12.
So Dave and I had been reviewing the land and the property that the district owns, and we identified 2 pieces of property in the Trigo and Springbrook area that we're fairly sure have not been utilized for many, many years. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information. We had to dig into our historians to find out some stuff, and we found out that they do believe it was donated. I don't have a name of who donated it at this time, but it's not being utilized. There's 2 parcels, and I think one's about 1 acre and one's about 2 acres, if I'm remembering correctly. So what we're looking for the board to approve tonight is for us to start the process of getting it assessed to see how much it's worth, and then the possibility of selling it.
So are we talking about the one in Springbrook right now, 2 parcels in Springbrook?
There's a parcel in Springbrook. Yes, actually, they're both in Springbrook. I think one's on Trigo Road and one's off of that River Road. And that, I believe, is in Springbrook.
Okay.
The first step is to get the assessment done to find out what's the value of it, because it's obviously been on the tax roll for zero assessment for many, many years.
Okay. So, can I have a motion to dispose of surplus property as, do you have a legal description here, the tax ID number?
Well, yep, and we would, after, I guess tonight we're just looking for the approval to start the assessment process and to look into it. We would likely bring it back once we have that information to a board meeting and provide that information at that time.
Okay, so there would be a motion to look into the surplus property land in Springbrook.
Yep,
Okay.
and Deb has a question.
I have a question. This map is just showing this one parcel, correct? And you don't have the information on the other parcel?
Did you
Or
print the
we
other
just
one?
have one parcel in front of us?
There's 2 of them. There is 2. There should be another copy here. There is another small parcel that is in that same vicinity.
Okay.
My only question is this property surrounded by county forest land, or is there private property on the sides where somebody would actually be interested in it?
There, we'd have to get out the plat book, but from the very limited information that we have in reviewing the documents that I was provided, there is some private property adjacent to the tax ID 124838. You can see that kind of in and around there. I don't know if people would be interested in buying it.
I think we could have a motion to look into the possible disposal of surplus property, if we could have that motion. And again, the process could start to evaluate the property, and then a decision could be made later, correct? So
Yep,
let's
we would
let's do
provide
that.
more detailed information once we had more detailed
We
information
just
on it.
need the approval to start the process.
Just wanna get those 2 pieces of property appraised at this time.
Okay, very good. So is there a motion to do that? I hope you write it down right.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Paul has made that motion,
Second that motion.
and Nathaniel has seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Deb, did you have more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I'm just,
Go ahead, take your time.
I'm curious to see the tax ID of the other piece of property,
Yep,
along with a map,
yep,
to see where that is located.
yep.
Okay.
I'll give
So
it to you.
the first sheet is a picture of where one is, and the second one is the tax ID of the second property. Is that what you're saying?
No, this is just the one here.
This is-
in the map.
Okay,
This is just
I see
one
that.
piece of
Yeah,
property.
this is just
Okay.
one.
So,
So,
we don't have the second one,
Yeah.
but when we get the appraisal information, we'll bring all that to the school board for further discussion and consideration.
So this is not a final decision, this is just to start the process.
okay.
Okay, very good. Is there any further questions by anybody? Hearing none. All that approve, raise your hand.
Six.
7.
6 and 7, 13. Motion passes. Oh, is there another vote, a negative vote at all? No? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is Resolution E, to change the start time of regular board meetings to 6 PM. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Paul has made that motion,
I'll second.
and Deb has the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor indicate by raising your hand. Six.
Oh, I'm sorry. 6.
14, motion carries. And the final resolution is to authorize the Board of Education to set the 2019 annual school board meeting for Monday, October 21st, 2019 at 6:30 PM at a location determined by the Board of Education and the administration, Wisconsin Statute 120.08, Parent 1. I'll entertain a motion. Sue Mooney from the town of Spooner, thank you. Sue Vold from the town of Bashaw. Is there any discussion? Hearing, yes, ma'am?
Julie from the town of Chicago, would you?
Julie whom from the town of Chicago?
Julie Hustovat?
Julie Hustovat from the town of Chicago.
Would you want to change that to 6 PM since the other meetings are beginning at 6 PM?
Well, that's a nice discussion.
We'd have to bump the other one half hour earlier then also,
We rolled them into one this year.
unless you're rolling into one, yeah.
Say that again,
Are you gonna roll them both into one at 6 PM?
next year. That would work. So would you like to take back your motion? Sue is good, Sue Vold will take back the second. Sue Mooney would take back her motion. Sue Mooney, would you like to make a new motion?
I move to have October 21st, 2019 district meeting at 6 PM.
Okay, so Sue had said that she would like the meeting to be held on the 21st of October, 2019 at 6:30 PM. That was her motion, and Sue Vold has seconded that.
6 PM.
6.
I'm sorry, 6 PM.
Did I hear her say the budget meeting and the annual meeting together?
Yes.
I think that's what I heard.
Yes. The annual meeting and the budget meeting. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Thank you, Julie Hustvedt, for that recommendation. All those in favor indicate by raising their hand.
8.
6.
Motion passes by, resolution passes by a vote of 14 to nothing. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Deb has made that motion. And Sue Mooney from the Township of Spooner has seconded. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. 14. Motion's adjourned. Thank you very much.
30 seconds.